Number 1. Cops stupidly arrest innocent man for sharing a name with a suspect. In a shocking case of mistaken identity, a young black man in Nevada, Shane Lee Brown, was wrongfully arrested and jailed for felony crimes committed by an older white man with the same name. The recently released footage reveals the repeated attempts by a 20-year-old Brown to try and correct the police officers of their mistake that resulted in him spending 6 days in 2 different jail facilities. The footage reveals the glaring oversight by deputies that led to Brown's unjust detention. During a traffic stop on January 8, 2020, Henderson police officers pulled over Shane Lee Brown, who is black, due to a broken headlight. The officers conducted a record search based on his first and last name, which yielded a warrant for a Shane Brown, who had skipped court and was wanted for prohibited possession of a firearm. However, the warrant was for Shane Neil Brown, a bearded white man who is now 51.
You got arrested for something with a weapon in Metro.
At least that's what they're saying.
You're not ringing a bell?
No.
The footage shows deputies explaining the reason for the stop and asking for identification. Brown informed him that his license was suspended but provided his full name, as well as his social security card. Despite this, the officers asked him to get out of his car and sit on the sidewalk. That's when the officers told Shane this.
It's coming back totally matching you. Not much else you can do.
I've never been arrested for weapon charge.
So do me a favor, but just put your hands right behind your back.
Confused and claiming his innocence, Brown repeatedly asserted that he was not the correct suspect. He had even mentioned his previous arrest to the officers, which were solely related to traffic violations, and revealed that he had a court date scheduled the following day. However, the officers insisted that the warrant matched his identity, although they seemed uncertain at times during their conversation.
It's social, so it's a no-bail warrant off his weapons charge.
So what do we want to tell the jail?
He has weapons.
He has a weapon.
Brown's pleas fell on deaf ears, and he was taken to the Henderson Detention Center for 2 days before being transferred to a detention center in Clark County for a court appearance. It was only 4 days into his time at Clark County that a judge ordered his release after a public defender noticed discrepancies in the identification numbers and age between the Shane Brown in custody and the one listed in the warrant. Shane Lee Brown, the wrongfully detained individual, is now pursuing legal action against the deputies from both departments, alleging civil rights violations, false imprisonment, negligence, and more. He is seeking damages of at least $50,000 for the ordeal, claiming that officers failed to verify his identity despite his repeated assertions of a mistaken identity. Although the arrest of Shane Lee Brown was made on the wrong grounds, thankfully things remained relatively calm. However, our next case covers a story of a teen who was attacked by a police canine, despite having no resemblance to the suspect. Number 2, teen mistaken for suspect gets attacked by police canine. In a disturbing case of mistaken identity, a 14-year-old Hispanic male named Angel Nunez became the victim of a police canine attack and subsequent handcuffing back in April 2019. Law enforcement officers were originally pursuing a white male suspect who had led them on a high-speed chase after stealing items from a Safeway in Firestone. However, when the officers encountered Angel and his sister outside their apartment complex in Fort Lupton, they wrongly identified Angel as a suspect and subjected him to unnecessary force. This incident has resulted in a lawsuit filed against 4 law enforcement officers from 3 different agencies. As Angel and his sister stepped outside their apartment complex to observe the police activity, officers swiftly tackled Angel to the ground and released a police German Shepherd, which attacked him. It was later discovered that the white male suspect had abandoned a stolen car in a nearby field and fled toward the apartment complex where Angel resided with his family. Body camera footage obtained by investigative reporters shows officers running in the darkness and immediately singling out Angel as a suspect, despite his clear dissimilarity to the suspect description. The suspect description circulated over police radio described a white male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10" tall, wearing a black jacket, black pants, and white shoes.
Suspect is going to be a white male, 5'9", 5'10", blue shirt, black jacket, black pants, dark hair, white shoes.
However, Angel, who stood about 5'4" and wore a gray hoodie and black shoes, bore no resemblance to the description. Angel's parents can be seen in the body camera footage rushing out of their apartment and confronting the officers. vehemently asserting their son's innocence. Officer Nate Morton of the Firestone Police, however, can be heard responding to Angel's mother, implying that the arrest was justified due to their involvement in a stolen vehicle. Only after both Angel and Officer Brian Wyard, who assisted in the apprehension, were bitten by the police canine, does Officer Morton inquire if the teenage boy matched the suspect description. Another officer discreetly confirms that the suspect was actually white. However, it took an additional 25 minutes before the handcuffs were removed from Angel so that he could receive medical treatment for the dog bites. The attorney representing Angel emphasizes the glaring disparities between the actual suspect's description and Angel's appearance, asserting that the officers did not consider whether he met the given description before subjecting him to excessive force. Officer Morton is heard muting the audio of his body camera while discussing the incident with a fellow officer, a suspicious action noted by civil rights attorney Adam Frank. Furthermore, Officer Morton blames Angel for not complying with officer commands to get on the ground, rather than offering an apology or acknowledging the grave mistake made by the officers. When approached for comments, law enforcement agencies involved declined to provide a statement, and Firestone Police Chief David Montgomery refused to address whether Officer Morton violated body camera policy. In 2021, the Weld County Sheriff's Office, Firestone Police, and Fort Lupton Police each paid 1/3 of the $400,000 settlement since all three agencies were involved in the incident. The poor decision-making of the officer became the cause of terribly injuring an innocent teenager. But as sad and as shocking as it is, there are plenty of cases when cops mistake innocent people for suspects. In our next video, we've got a case where an officer attempts to arrest a black man for resembling another fugitive. Number 3. Cops mistakenly arrest black man in his own yard. In a troubling incident from Texas, 2 police officers attempted to arrest a black man in his own yard, mistaking him for someone else with an outstanding warrant. The encounter, recorded and shared on social media by Clarence Evans, sparked accusations of racial profiling. On May 8, 2019, Clarence Evans, playing with his children in his front yard, found himself being handcuffed by Deputy Garrett Lindley of the Harris County Police Department. The tense encounter, captured on video, showed Deputy Lindley gripping Mr. Evans' arm and repeatedly referring to him by a different name, claiming there was a warrant for his arrest in Louisiana. Questioning the officer's claim, Evans challenged the warrant's validity, shouting that his name was not the one mentioned.
My name is not Quentin. What the f is wrong with you?
Sir, his name is not Quentin.
He refused to present his identification, fearing that he might become another victim of police violence.
I'm not gonna be the next you kill.
No.
Evans asserted his rights and emphasized that he would not allow himself to be handcuffed on his own property as he didn't do anything wrong. As the situation intensified, another officer arrived and showed Mr. Evans a photo of the fugitive they were initially searching for, suggesting a resemblance. However, Evans denied any similarity, expressing his frustration at being profiled based on his race and hairstyle. The second officer briefly examined the photo before separating Deputy Lindley from Evans, who wanted to file a complaint against the officer.
I was always that guy that said, if you're not breaking the law, you have nothing to worry about. And I absolutely wasn't breaking the law, and look what happened.
Reflecting on the incident, Evans shared his fear that the confrontation could have escalated into violence at any moment. He took to social media to express his disappointment, stating that the encounter shattered his belief that not all police officers were bad and that it offered him a glimpse into the experiences of unarmed innocent black men who had been shot by police. Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman explained that officers were dispatched to Evans' house based on a report received from another individual who believed he was the wanted individual.
As police officers, we don't get to choose if we go to a police call for service or not. We have to go. We have a duty, we have an oath.
While Herman described Evans as uncooperative, he also emphasized that the officers withdrew when it became apparent that he was not the person they were seeking. A criminal investigation was initiated, although Deputy Lindley was reportedly not the subject of the investigation. Herman defended the officers' actions, denying any racial profiling and emphasizing that they managed to handle the situation without physical altercation, despite Mr. Evans' perceived attitude.
An officer asks you for identification, especially under lawful means, which is what this was, you should show them identification.
He was also involved in a shooting incident in 2018, although charges were not filed against him. Evans has since hired attorneys and filed a lawsuit against the deputy, claiming that the officer violated his 4th and 14th Amendment rights for unlawfully detaining him. But the district court granted the defendant's motion for summary judgment and denied Evans's motion for reconsideration. If you want to support the channel and want to watch more of these videos, please subscribe as I upload them regularly.